You're listening to the Productive Not Busy podcast, where our mission is to make you more money so you'll have less stress and more free time. It's all about mindset, attitude, and taking action. And your host, Wayne Weathersby, knows how to make that happen. He's negotiated and closed over $150 million in contracts while building businesses with proven success strategies that he wants to share with you. So if you're ready to make some real money, then let's get to it. Here's Coach Wayne.
Welcome to the RE Business Builder Podcast. Do you want to learn how to build a big business so you can unlock the resources you need to build a big life? Then this is your place to connect and discover another important piece to the puzzle of unlocking your true potential. It's time to turn your success into wealth. And now, here is your host, Chad Lindsay.
Hey, welcome podcasters. I am in my new studio that doesn't yet have the wonderful acoustic stuff. So you're hearing a little bit of reverb. That's meant to be because I am not putting together my studio yet, but it is what it is. So if you hear a little bit of that, but here we're going to be talking about actually an interesting puzzle piece to that, because part of our talk today is launching podcasts and not doing it perfectly, but doing it in a way that is going to get results. And so I've got a guest today, Wayne Weathersby, who is the host of a Productive Not Busy podcast, which is all about finding more time and more freedom with less stress. And so I'd like to welcome Wayne to the show today. Welcome, Wayne. How's it going, brother?
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Fantastic, man. So even my little intro point about my echoey walls is sort of going to be about like what we're going to talk about, right? Because you started a podcast recently and just said, you know what, I'm getting into this. I'm going to make it happen. And, forget all the crazy production, of creating this, this video thing or this or that. You said, let's just get good conversations on audio and start figuring out how this thing works. So why don't you tell me the journey? And you're a wonderful real estate agent. You've got a lot of other success stories behind you. So I guess maybe bring me current to who you are for my audience to understand a little bit. I know you had a career in music. Then you got into the car business and was really successful in that business. And then into the real estate business and done an incredible job there. Now more of a coach, an influencer, a podcaster, and the host of your show. So anything I'm missing in there you want to bring more detail to? I think I'd love for you to share a little bit about those things.
Well, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And so currently I'm a real estate agent. I have a team here in Central Florida, and I apply these principles to building that business just like I did the music industry and the auto industry and anything else. And these principles that I use in real estate are basically the same 5 principles that you use to do anything, which is if I wanted to lose weight or gain weight, I have to have a plan. I have to have the mindset, the attitude, and then the last thing is I actually have to do it. So if you're going to the gym to lose 30 pounds, you got to go. They open gyms. The gym doesn't care if you lose weight or not.
Yeah.
They're just giving you a place to do it. It's still about you getting up, taking action, going there and doing it. So when I started the podcast, the idea was that I needed a release. I'm a creative person. I'm a musician, all that stuff. And then I also have value and knowledge that not everybody has. My personal belief is that if you have some knowledge, you bring value to somebody. So if we're talking about starting a podcast today, I wanted something to give me a creative outlet even when I didn't have somebody to talk to, because I'm a talker. I'm a relationship guy. I'm a belly to belly. I want to have a conversation with somebody. So if I don't, it puts me in an uncomfortable place. So I just started putting stuff out, and I was like, I bring value. I know what I'm talking about. I know how to sell. I know how to network. I know how to market. I know how to do this. I knew to do that. And I was passionate about it. I just started putting that out there for myself, and then realized that, hey, I can put that out for other people, and I can help other people by.
Yeah. And so let me dial in a little bit about, the journey. And cause I think there's some important content in here that real estate agents, this particular podcast is focused on real estate agents living a productive life as well, and building big businesses. And so I think as a lead gen tactic, being exposed, being an influencer, being somebody that is showing up as a leader in today's world. Like we were talking about this earlier. It used to be you could come in and have written a book or done something that shows some authority, and you put that on the table and someone goes, oh man, you wrote this book and you authored this, and maybe you're speaking in places, and people would really want to turn an ear to you for influence. But nowadays, being able to have some stretch of influence through social media, through podcasting, through different things. So this is one particular media format that can create some credibility, some authority, some things that can be really valuable as you're out there being a real estate agent or a coach. Kind of gives you some platform of that to just be able to expose and connect with people too. Is that not everything is about what something looks like, but actually having the authentic value that you're expressing. So I know that's also a puzzle piece for you, but I guess take me back as you started to think about this thing, because podcasting's been around for a while. A lot of people have done it, and you got the Joe Rogans of the world all the way down to thousands of other people doing it. You decided to recently say, you know what, I'm in this game. Let me just start. Like, what was that progression of, okay, I want to, why did I want to? And what were some of the okay, I just started to get going. And, you're saying it's like someone going to the gym. You said, well, I'm just going to start going to the gym of the podcast and get this thing done.
Correct.
Give me that initial, where did the thought come from? Why did you start? And what were the early strategies to just get content going?
Well, for one thing, in business, like in real estate, I needed to build my brand. And when you build your brand, you have to have a product, right? And then you have to have value. And then you have to explain that value so people want to go there. But it's just like any other business. The very first people that listened to my podcast, so I decided I wanted to start it. I needed somewhere to put my thoughts and the info so I could go back to them, as well as use it. I like to coach people. So if I have something on mindset, I could either sit and have a long conversation with you. But if I don't know you, I could send you that episode and go, here, look, I got something here that might help you. And it's a 8, 10, 12-minute section on talking about mindset that allows me to connect with you on something that's important without even having to be there with you. Plus, it opens up doors. It's a great networking tool. It's like a business card. Here's a link to my show. Mm-hmm. No different than if you had a chance to meet Frederick from $1 Million Listing, right? He does speaking engagements now, and he's introduced as, this is Frederick, one of the stars of $1 Million Listing. That's his calling card. Now that's his business card. No different. So for me, a podcast was, well, I bring some value. There's other people that feel the same way I do or need the same help that I needed. Now that I've got that knowledge and know how to do it, I want to share it with people. And it's no different than if I started a donut shop or a coffee shop. The first people that showed up were my friends and family. Mm-hmm. And it kind of grows from there. And then it almost becomes like a brick and mortar business. Okay, I've got a message, I've got a product. Now I need to get it out to as many places as possible. So then you have to find the platform that works best for you. Everything I do, my whole goal of this podcast, and I'm going to get into it in season 2, is I wanted to do it with little or no money.
Yeah.
So it's not super high, shiny, reflective.
Yeah.
It's not down and dirty, but it's kind of like sitting at a coffee shop with a little background noise going on, having a conversation with a real human being. Mm-hmm. And the purpose I did that is now I'm going to have how to start a podcast with little or no money.
Yeah.
Because absolutely, if you've got a pulse and you've got a cell phone, and it seems like even homeless people nowadays have cell phones. If you notice, I was laughing about that the other day with one of my clients, is that even they were showing the homeless problem in California, mm-hmm. and the homeless people were sitting on the curb surfing on their phones.
Yeah.
So my point to that is that even a homeless person could start a podcast right now, because there are free apps that you can download that allow you to create a full podcast from beginning to end and send it out to every one of the platforms for free.
Yeah.
It costs you no money.
Yeah,
and you can do it really for no money if you use just your phone, because you can use your phone as the recording app. I spent $30 on a mic and that's it.
Yeah.
And what my point was, is I wanted to start it and have it become successful. I have metrics that shows every hurdle I had, how I overcame those hurdles. So now I can go out and say, look, I'm going to have a speaking engagement on how to build a podcast for nearly nothing, be in 30 countries, have thousands of subscribers. Yeah. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it. Because here's the thing, everybody's an expert at something. I met a guy the other day that has a podcast about marbles.
Marbles?
He collects marbles.
Yeah.
There's thousands of people all over the world that collect marbles that listen to his show. So if you're a nail biter,
yeah,
start a podcast about biting your nails and how you stopped, because there's people out there that have that problem.
Yeah.
So sponsorships, networking opportunities, all that can come from something that you're an expert at. So if you're a spouse of a person that has type 1 diabetes, you have an expertise that other people need. Yeah. And you can start that. The actual platform part of it's easy. It's the taking of the action of going, okay, I've got this idea. How do I get it out to people? If you get the idea and you get the platform takes care of it for you.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that you saw enough value in the positioning dynamic to be able to say, I know that if I have some media outlet and share my thoughts, and I know I have value. So you're kind of, when you go to the value talk, it's, kind of talking to ourselves to make sure we feel credible to do such a thing, to be out there and telling people what's up or sharing our thoughts. And you kind of have to go through that a little bit and find your content, find your expertise. But you went through that and you said, well, heck, what could it hurt for me to have more media, more platform, more credibility in sharing what I know to more people? You don't know, did you start off and have kind of a goal? Were you thinking, well, I'm just going to start laying down some information and then see what happens? And do you have a goal? I mean, what is the ends of the cast itself?
It's a great question. So my goal when I started it was to have a place to keep all my stuff. So what I was finding is I'm a very tactile person. So if I had a meeting with somebody and they needed help on something, I had all these folders and all these notes and all this stuff. I needed somewhere I could go and pull out just what I needed and say, here. Which I'm
it's
also
like kind of like, is it like a thought depository for you?
Yeah, it's like a thought depository, like a journal, right? So I'll drive down the road and I'll record for 2 hours straight about just whatever's on my mind. And then I can go back and listen to it and I can edit out just the pieces that I want to share with people. All the all the coughs, sneezes, sniffs, whatever, I can edit out of it. And then I can share that product, because here's the thing, there's nothing worse than going 70 miles an hour down the road and you have this great idea or this great thought or statement that you want to remember or share and not be able to do it. I can reach up, touch my phone, record, and literally have it in seconds, and it's there forever. And then I can use that as my notes or my bullet points for a show. And it's funny because you and I can be talking about real estate and open houses, and I can literally do an episode on the perfect 5 open house hacks.
Yeah.
I've got it, I've recorded it, and now it's there forever that I can share with everybody that's ever going to have an open house.
Yeah.
It's almost like a business card in a way.
So I love that. So I think a lot of the tricks and hacks to life is how do you do something that you know is going to be useful, and to yourself at minimum you said, well, if I recorded X number of these moments and learned and figured things out, but I've got a depository where I can share this stuff, that was a level 1 win for you. And the fact that anyone would eventually listen to it all was like level 2, level 3 tiers of, hey, this is cool. But so you got how many episodes in with just this method of recording in your car while driving or in your house when you're wanting to debrief? Like, how many episodes did you get out of that content where you're just pulling from the air thoughts of where you're at?
Well, that's the interesting part. So it's so funny how everything that you do in life kind of runs parallel. There's only 4 or 5 principles that it takes to do everything in life. You got to do the dishes. Well, you got to have the right mindset. You got to have the right attitude. And then you got to actually get up and go through the motion of actually doing it to get a result. So for me, I did my first episode and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Well, then it became this chemical thing in me going, oh, wow, 2 people listened to it. Now, okay, how do I get more people? So it was just like building a business. Okay, now I've got a product. It was like making a cupcake. Of course, you're going to like it, but let me see what Chad thinks of it. And you hand it to Chad, and now Chad likes it, and now Chad shares it with somebody. And now all of a sudden you've got, just like in real estate, do you want to be a lead generator or a lead magnet? Which happens is if you have enough raving advocates out there, people go, oh man, you got to check this dude out. Right?
Yep.
Or if you and I are having a conversation, we're going to move out to Phoenix to be closer to the grandkids. Hey, I know a guy.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're looking for. So then your podcast, that for me, did I have goals? Really? No. I made an episode and then it got like this blood in the water thing for me. I was like, oh, 3 people listened to it last night. It was like this monumental thing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I got to get to 20 listens. I just got to get 20 people to listen to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then I got a subscriber. And then I was like, oh man. And then so what happens is I started making these little micro goals of, okay, I want 20 people to listen. Oh, I got 50 plays now.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden is, oh, I need to get it on Apple because now I can say the Productive Not Busy podcast brought to you by so-and-so. You can be found on Audible, Apple, Spotify, right? It's this branding thing that you can do now.
Yeah.
It's like, when I played music, I played with some high profile people. That was our calling card. Once we did that, hey, we're the band that opened for Motley Crue for 6 weeks. Oh, really? Brought us instant credibility.
Yeah.
Same thing with your show. I'm 60 something episodes in now. And it's like I keep laying this out. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I could have 1 million followers if I want. I mean, if that's the goal, then now I've got to go through the motions and bring a quality product that is interesting to people and then get it out to enough people that are already raving advocates that now I can go back and all my subscribers, I can go, hey, do me a favor, share it with a friend. Just like we do in real estate.
Yeah.
Hey, I helped you buy your house. Everything went amazing. Can I get a referral online? Yep, great. Who else do you know that might be able to use my services? It's the same exact business model for a podcast as it is a real estate empire.
Yeah.
Is you don't have a lack of money. You have a lack of clients that have the money that will pay for your solution to their problem. And a podcast is exactly the same thing. If you've got a expertise or a knowledge of something, somebody else needs what you have. And it's going to make their life easier, which then gives you a platform, which then attracts sponsorships, which attracts other people. I'm a guest on your podcast. You're going to be a guest on my podcast. Now it's a networking opportunity, just like real estate. Mm-hmm. So if you apply those principles, now all of a sudden you can market yourself, especially if you have a real estate based, podcast, and you can have multiples. You can have a real estate podcast and a cooking podcast and a playing guitar podcast if you want. Nobody's handing out chips at the door going, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Sky is the limit, and it's like having your own FM radio channel.
Yeah.
You can play whatever you want. You can say whatever you want.
So we'll do a little sample right here since there's going to be some listeners to this podcast. This podcast, we're going to take our mid-break, is brought to you by the Wayne Weathersby team for real estate here in Central Florida. Wayne, if they were wanting to get in touch with you on the concepts of buying, selling, or investing in real estate in Central Florida, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, you can reach out to me via my email, which is waynew@kw.com, or you can reach us on Facebook at the Weathersby Team, Keller Williams, Smart One. Either one of those will work. You can do a live chat on Facebook, or you can also call me at 863-632-9489. We'd be glad to help you.
A good example of how podcasting can pay off, right? So as a sponsor for the water that you got me this afternoon, that's our deal today.
There you go.
But no, in all seriousness, no, that having a chance to talk to a market, share information. So those that are listening out there that are wanting to learn more about how basically inside of real estate, how to create a podcast, right? So Wayne is a great example as he's gaining his influence. So he's done 65 episodes. You're up to how many listeners? 2,600, something like that?
Yeah, we have about 2,600 subscribers right now, and we're in 30 countries, which was something else I was going to tell you is that sitting in tiny Lake Wales, Florida, where I do my show from, I reach out to Paraguay, Brazil, Germany, Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nowhere on planet Earth that doesn't have access to my information, and I have access to them. So getting back to what you were talking about, you go, I've got listeners in Alabama. Well, I want a listener in England. Well, I can either wish and hope, or what do? I go and found a UK podcast. I reached out to them going, love to be a guest on your show if you ever have anybody back out. They had somebody back out. I was a guest on their show. Yeah. Right. And all of a sudden it backflowed into my show because people in the UK started subscribing to my podcast and my people subscribed to their podcast. And so it's just like any other business. networking, making contacts, and being creative. I could have sit back and wished I had somebody in the UK. Well, I was like, well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
I reached out and it worked out. You know, we've got some pretty amazing people coming on our show that were just based off of just asking.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because this platform gives you access to celebrities and influential people, because now you're just like Ed Milet or Joe Rogan, because I have a show and he has a show.
Yep.
And our shows are exactly the same on the same exact platforms.
Different niches of followership and things like that. So there's value in all that.
Absolutely. And there's people that are looking for stuff that Rogan can't provide, or that Milet can't provide, or whatever. And the beauty thing is that, again, I could do 5 episodes a day if I wanted.
Right.
There's nobody telling me how much or how little you can do it, when you can do it, how long it can be. The rules, you make the rules from beginning to end. And that's when it's exciting, because it gives you control and an audience.
Yeah.
And how you interact with your audience. And you can, I have messages being sent to me from people from all over the world going, oh my God, that was the greatest thing. And here's what happened. And now all of a sudden you realize you're coming from kindness and being genuine about it and offering value.
Yeah.
You can change somebody's life. For people like us, that's huge.
Yeah.
You might not be doing that. It might be how to find a deal at a garage sale, but you may help somebody find a deal at a garage sale and it changes their life.
Sure.
So everybody can look at it how it would make you feel inside, because as it gives you an outlet.
Yeah.
It's a great platform that everybody has access to.
Well, I think the message that I want to be clear today is that if you desire to get into something like podcasting, and this is what it's about today, is the way you can start is the same way Wayne started, which is a very simple concept, which is I've got thoughts, I've got ideas, and I've got a drive. I'm going to take an app. I guess you could maybe go ahead and give me a promo. You talk about a certain software that you have on your phone.
Correct.
What's the software that you use?
So I chose to go with the Anchor platform. And Anchor is basically a one-size-fits-all. You can get in, it's completely free, and it gives you absolutely everything you need to get started from music, background music, to transition music, to a file storage that you can do minute to 5 hour long sections that you can save and record that'll there forever.
Yep.
And then it also gives you the RSS feed and all of the links that you just plug in your RSS feed, and it sends it to the Apple and the Audible and the Spotify and the Chatterbox and all these major platforms.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about how to get on certain platforms and then how to acquire the listeners. And then it just became kind of this obsession of, how can I get somebody else to listen? And then how do I get people to this platform? And you start realizing that I can go to Venus.
Yeah, sky's the
I mean,
limit.
there's nothing that's stopping me from going there. And
So you did these 65 things. So if you're listening, you're like, how do I start? You download Anchor. And you can begin learning the tutorial on that. And then don't overthink your content. If you're just trying to get started, just start talking into it.
Don't be perfect.
Yeah. Share your thoughts. Now, do you just rant to yourself and then figure out what you were talking about afterwards and then label it? Or
Depends.
do you sort of try to go into a talk with a content piece?
Well, it gives me choices. So what happens is I can be driving down the road and have a thought. If I don't want to lose that thought, I can flip it on real quick and I can record inside the Anchor app, for example, and stop it. When I get home later on, I can take that audio and I can pull it out and I can edit out all the coughs, the sniffs, the sneezes, the all that, and the gaps, and pull it together. And then it's a finished product of what I want people to hear. And then I can save that. Now on the desktop platform, I there's some rules of the game. Don't be too polished.
Yeah.
Don't be obsessed with sound. Don't be obsessed with, I don't have an intro, so you don't go spend money on that. You can make your own intro with background music on that platform for free. Then once you get subscribers and hit a certain milestone or whatever, I treated myself and paid for an intro and an outro.
Yeah.
But the reason people podcast is because it feels like we're sitting here having a conversation like we're having right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to, if I want to take a class, I'll get on YouTube or sign up for a platform that has a dude up there being perfect and scripted.
Yeah.
I have a 3.5 by 5 inch card, and I'll all day long, I'm basically pulling ideas out. So you don't want to sound like you're reading out like a good preacher doesn't read out of the Bible.
Yeah.
He looks down, glances, and then expounds on his portrayal of what that says.
Yep.
So you don't want to be scripted like that. And it's more natural because it sounds more like a conversation. But you and I will be having a conversation, and you'll say, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I'm like, ooh, that's good. I'll write that down. That's my topic. And so what I'll do is then I'll look at that and I'll go, okay, it's what you learn after you know it all. And then I'll just start talking on that.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
And this is what it might mean to you. But let's talk about that. And you open it up, and it's, well, you can always be learning. You want to surround yourself with people that know more than you, not less than you. You don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. There's no value in that. And then all of a sudden it just turns in. And my first couple episodes were like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. I was going to call it 2 minutes with Wayne because I thought that's all the content I had. And then all of a sudden, 10 episodes in, it was like I hit this milestone. I was like, wow, that was a 10-minute episode. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And now the next milestone was, oh, wow, I had enough content to do 15 minutes, right? Now I'm up to about 19 to 20 minutes per show.
Yeah.
And the key to that is then once you have a body of work, then you can tweak it. Because now I know that on my 10-minute shows, people were listening about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
15-minute show, people were listening about 6 minutes. A 20-minute show, people were listening about 8 minutes. So some of that stuff got lost.
Yeah.
Don't get your feelings hurt. Just realize people have an attention span or a drive. The average drive is about 7 to 10 minutes. I want to listen to a whole episode in that time because the likelihood of me starting my car up and going back and finishing that is very little. So that 6 to 8 minute sweet spot. I learned that after 25, 30 episodes that, well, wait a minute, people aren't listening to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So either it sucks or that's all they had time for.
Yep.
So I noticed that I started backing them back down to 6 to 8 minutes. I'm getting almost 100% listener.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, because that's the attention span and the time. And that's the stuff that you'll learn. And it might be different for your topic. Your topic might be the Airbnb topic.
Right.
Well, somebody's purposefully going to sit down and listen to that. That's not something you just randomly just listen to for fun on your drive.
It's like a training. Yeah.
Right. That's like, I need that info. I need that right now. Right. Or how to change the spark plugs in my car. That's like a right now thing. And they're going to watch it from beginning to end. Mine's more of a general, universe of stuff that I talk about. I need to be on point. So what I needed to do is I needed to cater to my audience, which is about a 6 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm getting total value. Now what that does is when a sponsor comes to me and goes, hey, or I can go out to them. Hey, I just reached out to, who did I reach out to? I reached out to, anyway, it was a product. And I was like, I'd like to, see if you'd be interested in sponsoring on my podcast. Well, the first thing I ask is how many listeners, how many plays, what's your demographic, and how long do they listen? Do they listen? What's your number on listening? Your percentage, 70%, 80%. I'm about like 88% from beginning to end. Yeah. So people are usually clicking off right before my outro. Yeah. So I'm getting all my content in. That's just my outro. So I would rather sandwich in an ad, and then that's what they'll ask you. So now you'll know those numbers because a lot of people come in and go, how do you get sponsors? Yeah. I've got 15 episodes and I don't have any sponsors. Well,
yeah, some of that is you have to be purposeful in that stuff, right? So that becomes, I think the important part is if you're going to start this thing, and I've heard there's a lot of content on starting podcasts and what to do with it all. And I think many of them will say, be careful starting it thinking you're going to be a Joe Rogan and make a bunch of money from, the process of who's going to listen and all the ads and all that stuff. Like, be careful about that. It needs to be something that you're comfortable sitting on, talking, doing your thing, almost as if it's a hobby that you love. Like what you said, man, I just needed to have a place for my thoughts and I needed to get this out of me. And it's a depository. And so worst case scenario, it's a place where you send people when you're coaching, using it as a calling card. It has other value. Now the other game of, man, did someone really find this nationwide? And I get a vein of interest and I get into some other, networks that people really are enjoying content, and all of a sudden I've got 100,000 viewership and subscribers and all these things, like, then that takes a different angle, right? And you can, once you learn the game a little bit better, you can be more purposeful in your approaches. And it sounds like that's what's going on. So are you allowed to share what might be coming up on your future podcast now that, because these are kind of like big milestones? Is that cat out of the bag yet, or we need to hold that off till later?
Yeah, we can share it. But you nailed it. What you just said, which is really cool. There's a couple of things. A, being an influencer and being a Joe Rogan, absolutely. I don't know if I would go out of the gate with that, but there's no reason why that can't be the ultimate goal. So it's really cool. But then also the networking part of it, it really opens you up to opportunities, which is going into the people I've got coming on my show that I would never have had access to without going, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. And that is, you can call Tom Brady, his representative, and say, hey, I've got this podcast I'd love Tom to be a guest on. This is what it's about. This is what we talk about. And he could very well show up. And that's what I've done. So my first quarter of the year, we're going to have a social media influencer from TikTok that went from 0 to 2 million followers in less than a year during the pandemic, and without very little social media, and how it was the mindset, effort, attitude, a plan, and taking action that made that happen. And now he's sharing that with the world on how he did it, because anybody can do it. We've got the retired CEO of Starbucks, Howard Behar, is going to be a guest on the show, and he's got a book that I told him I was going to plug on all my episodes leading up to it, which is called It's Not About the Coffee. Yeah. And it talks about how he built Starbucks from 15 stores when he started to almost 5,000 when he retired, and it was all not about the coffee.
Yeah.
And so, we've got him, we've got a next executive from the Magic Kingdom, Disney World, that's going to be on the show.
That's cool.
That has a book out now. And so it opens up avenues that I didn't think I had access to. And then it rekindles ones that really hadn't thought about, because coming from the music world, I have access to some pretty influential people in the music industry that to the average Joe doesn't mean anything, but to the right person, that relationship means a lot, because it allows me to call up somebody and go, hey, do you know, or do you still hang out with so-and-so? By the way, I've got this show. I'd love to have you on.
Yeah.
Right. And it allows me to start that conversation again with people that I hadn't talked to. So about real estate. Hey, yeah. I have a podcast, and then I'm also doing real estate. My specialty is helping influential people and celebrities transition from one place to another, with us taking the heat and, anonymity on their part.
Yeah.
And now you have a product that you can offer up to those people. So for me, it's the one thing that we learned in with Gary Keller in real estate is, what's the one thing I can do that if I do that, it's going to make like 5 or 6 other things either easier or unnecessary. Yeah. So once you start applying that, it's losing weight, doing dishes, exercising, starting a podcast, starting a donut shop. It's all exactly the same.
Yeah, same principles apply.
Principles apply.
So, well, Taylor, what kind of let's close out this particular one. And this was about, if you're interested in starting a podcast and your real estate business, and you're really trying to grow a big real estate business, it may not be that the content is all real estate related, because you're looking to gain influence, you're looking to gain followership. You can be thoughtful about how it could play into your real estate business. If you're in an area and you wanted to talk to local influencers and local people, you could interview folks. You can do a lot of different things, but I think the point is, get started, don't overcomplicate it, and be consistent, and lay down as much information as you can. And one of the ways to do that is, you may not be interviewing when you first start. Like, just get information out of your head, share information with people. Like, we have one called the Local Expert Podcast, which is about local things going on in Central Florida. And that has some followership about things going on locally, and that has its purpose. But getting content going, and once you get to the place where you see these numbers start to move, and then you can be more thoughtful, because you're starting to show yourself that you've been successful. And when you call out to interview more influential people, they can see a body of work. They can see that there's some metrics, and they can have a little bit more faith that you're just not some guy that just started yesterday, that you're going to follow through and it's worth their time to invest with you. And you can get people like, did you say the VP of, or the president of Starbucks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. CEO of Starbucks.
CEO of Starbucks. Yeah. It's incredible.
And you hit the nail right on the head with that, is that if you've got multiple businesses, so you can look at the podcast as a business, but you can also look at it as a vehicle to tote your business that you're already in, which is real estate. So for me, if I'm calling Chad Lindsay, who owns a flower shop, I want to interview Chad about flowers. But if I go to Chad and go, hey, I'm a realtor, I'd love to work with you on transitioning from one place to the other when you get ready, that could be today or 7 years from now. My point is if I go in going, hey, I'd like to introduce myself. I'd like to have you on my show about your flowers, flower arrangements, how you decide what goes in what, whatever.
Yeah.
Every person that you do that with has what that you need.
They have a house.
There you go.
Yeah.
But not everybody that you go in going, hey, I'd like to help you. Everybody's got 5 realtors.
Yeah.
On their mind. But if I go in going, hey, and we build a relationship across the table about flowers, again, it's the oldest trick in the book or tool.
Yeah.
Is what do you do when you sit down with people to build rapport? You talk about stuff they like.
Yep.
Right? So now I have an interest in what you do. You're going to tell me all about it because you love talking about it, because you love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you have a house. So if we become buddies, guess what you're going to do with me?
Yeah.
Now, A, you've given me permission. Now I can reach out to you anytime I want to. B, I'm a realtor.
Yep.
C, whenever you get ready to need my services or know somebody that needs my services, I'm going to be high on your list of opportunity or a referral.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I coach people that have multiple businesses, and I'm like, okay, let's see which one needs to feed which one.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a motorcycle shop, but you're also a realtor. Well, not everybody that you show houses to has a motorcycle.
Yep.
But everybody you sell motorcycles to has a house.
Yep.
So I'm going to focus on that one and acquire opportunities for real estate from the one that I know that every single person I touch has a house.
Yeah.
Whereas in real estate, if I talk to you about motorcycles and you don't have one, you could care less.
Yeah.
That's one less thing that we can talk about. So there's a motive to that honestly this simple thing as a podcast can turn into something monumental, because the thing that you have is what I need, which is a topic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I don't care if you scrape the gunk off the bottom of the septic tanks is a job. Somebody needs to know that.
Yeah.
So I can talk to you about that, and it brings us together no matter what our situation is or it all works out, and it's really cool because it's an opportunity to network with people, that every single person you come in contact has what your business transacts.
Very
unless
cool.
they live in a box.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even those people know somebody that has a house.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's a really interesting dynamic, and literally my 15-year-old is going to start his own podcast about gaming and about the kind of gaming that he likes to talk about because he can't find that somewhere else.
Yeah.
And him and all his buddies, he's got 8 buddies that he sits around and chats with until all hours of the morning that are interested in that.
Yeah.
Because they can't find it anywhere else, so they talk to each other about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, start a podcast about that. I bet you there's people in China that want to talk about the same thing. So really, the sky's the limit. It's really cool.
And you'll find your tribe, right?
You'll find your tribe every time, I promise.
Yeah. So cool, man. Well, Wayne, I appreciate you having this discussion with you. You've done a really neat thing, and you're a lot actually further in this process than this particular podcast is, because I have a chance to talk with wonderful people like you, and we have these spotty things, but you've been much more consistent, which breeds this better followership and better connection to your community. And so you've inspired me to want to be more thoughtful as we craft this. But if someone wanted to find your podcast because they've been intrigued about your journey, how would they find your podcast?
So you can go to anywhere that you listen to a podcast. And also we just got added to Audible, which Audible, you have to earn your way into Audible. But you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Podcast, you can go to Google Podcast, Castbox, Audible, all of them. You can go and look for the Productive Not Busy podcast, or just type in my name and it'll pop up. And you can like and subscribe. That would be amazing. Everyone helps. And I think we bring some value to the platform. And also you're allowed, if you have something that you do need help on, you can reach out through text through our platforms and say, hey, I need help on door knocking, or I need help on lead generation or advertising, marketing, branding, whatever. And we'll do an article or an episode specifically on that for you, or we can bring you on the show and we can talk it out, whatever. And it's kind of a neat platform. So Audible, Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us.
Cool, man. Well, Wayne, I appreciate it today. And those that listen throughout this process, we appreciate you checking out the RE Business Builder. We are always looking to work to bring really big, great concepts to the table and have these hash out talks and just share the root level reality to building businesses. What are the hot topics of what's going on in this world? So Wayne, you brought a lot of value to us today, and thank you for doing that. And continue to follow us on the RE Business Builder, and we'll be hearing from Wayne, I'm sure, again, another episode. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks much. You guys take care.
You've been listening to the Productive Not Busy podcast with Coach Wayne. Join us next time for more money-making strategies to help you have less stress and more free time. Follow us on Facebook at Productive Not Busy, on Instagram at frontline.coach.wayne, and on Twitter at Wayne New Jr. And remember, be productive, not busy.